Welcome to GradMissions Office Hours. I'm Autumn Lockett.
Yeah, hey everybody. I'm Lisanne Carlson, also here with GradMissions. Happy to see you again.
Yeah, we are coming to you fresh and hot from waitlist season.
Mm,
Waitlist.
yes,
The rudest word, I think, don't you?
it is rude. It is, especially this cycle.
Yes, in the law school universe, apps are, I think the final tally is, knowing that there's still some straggler applications, but we're about 20.5% up when all the dust settled. And so that's a significant
Yeah,
increase. That's a lot more people applying to law school, and the people who applied to law school applied to more law schools, if that makes
yes.
sense. So I feel like
Mhm.
the wait list is going to be like especially um, dynamic this
Yeah,
summer,
for sure.
don't you
For
think?
sure. Because people kind of panic, because they're not hearing. So then they widen their net, apply to more schools, and then kind of, what's it called? Kind of bottlenecks, like in
Yeah,
traffic.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it totally
Hmm.
does. But here's the good news. They can only take up one seat. So even if
Right.
they applied to 35 law schools, they can only take up one seat. So at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it might be August 3rd when you get off the
Yeah.
wait list. These
Right.
schools are going to have to move. And so we just want to talk a little bit about etiquette and manners.
Hmm.
And so this waitlist conversation is for med clients, law clients, parents of med and law clients,
Hmm.
future med and law students. So we
Exactly.
just wanted to kind of let you know, number one, what schools think about you when you're on the wait list and when you're committing to the school. Lisanne, I saw a panicked mom in a Facebook group saying that her child had
Not a
committed.
panicked mom.
A panicked
Sorry.
mom. Yes, everyone who had panicked mom on their bingo card this cycle.
And then
Mark it.
I always wonder behind the panic, I'm sorry, about the panic mom. Is the student panicking or is it just, are they, what I'm saying? Or is that
Sometimes,
sometimes
sometimes
with the panic mom, I would worry that their kid wasn't as
their kid has it under
concerned.
control, right?
Right.
And mom's just like,
Mm-hmm.
mom who's
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like myself.
Exactly. Right. For sure. As moms ourselves, it's like, are we going to be the panic mom? We have
Yeah.
probably been at some point. So,
Oh, we probably have been. I'm sure our
anyways,
teachers have these conversations. But this
yes.
panic mom
And
was saying,
yeah.
my kid committed to a law school because they heard the drum beat about how apps were up and they were just happy
Yeah.
to get in. They had a pretty good scholarship offer, good to go. Paid a seat deposit. Now he just got off the wait list at like his dream school. And she was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, what do I do? Lysiane, is
Right.
it a big deal?
No, I mean,
It's not.
it's it's important to be polite, but you can go back to that school and say, hey, this came up, and that school is going to be understanding because it happens quite often.
Yes. I think the number one thing to think about here, well, there's twofold. So I'm going to talk to people at both ends of the spectrum. There are some people on the spectrum who are like, oh yeah, I paid my seat deposit to five med schools.
Mm.
Now we wait and see which one's going to give me the best offer, scholarship wise. Then there are
Yeah.
other people who are so conscientious and you know, they
Don't want
sent
to hurt anyone's feelings or
right. They
yeah.
sent flowers to the admissions committee as
Right.
after they got in, and they
Yeah.
visited campus 3 times, and they went out to dinner with,
Yeah.
the 2L mentors,
Yeah.
and they feel like, oh my gosh, I have to go to this law school, but then you
Yeah.
get in at the one that's really a better fit for you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, to that student, I say respectfully, the world
Mhm.
doesn't revolve around you.
Yeah.
They will be sad that you are gone. I have cried as dean of
Yeah.
admissions over students who didn't end up coming.
Mhm.
And we have been burned, right? We can tell those stories. Maybe
Yeah.
that's for later in the podcast. Um,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
there are 30 people with
Right.
exactly the same stats waiting on the wait list and would be overjoyed to take that spot. So
For
at the end
sure.
of the day, you have to do what's best for you.
You
Maybe
do, but also consider the school and give them a heads up so that they can open the spot for those students. So
yes,
maybe
and
view it as
that's
that you're not hurting anyone's feelings. You're letting them know so that someone else can get a good result.
absolutely. So yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to really start with that student who's holding five
Mhm.
acceptances and has paid, or who's holding 40 acceptances and has
Yeah.
five seat deposits. Because in
Right.
August, your little booty can only be in one chair. So
Right.
let's talk about the calculus there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so they're thinking about here's what's typically happening when you have that many seat deposits paid. You're waiting on something.
Yeah.
Is it an internal thing that you're waiting on
Hmm.
or an external thing that you're waiting on? And that
Yeah.
really is, for me, that's the
Yeah.
dividing line.
It is. Yes.
So if you're waiting on information from the school, you are waiting to hear from career services about on-campus interviews, or
Mhm.
if you're in med school, like what their match rates are, which those are all public, so you really shouldn't be waiting on them. You should just go and Google it and find it
Yeah.
yourself.
Right.
Or maybe they're going to increase your scholarship. You've asked them to increase your scholarship, you're in negotiations. If there's transactional things happening, if maybe you have a visit plan for later in the month, then you're
Mhm.
going to go. Um, that's okay. Like understandable. If you were just sitting there with your Rory Gilmore pro con list,
Yeah.
it's time to
Right.
make a decision. It's the clock is
Hmm. It is. Exactly. Sit down with some friends, family, whoever, and make the decision. Like you said, those are the internal things. You've done all the things, you've done your tour, you've gotten all your questions answered. There's really nothing else you can do besides make the decision on what's best for you. And I understand someone who gets decision paralysis sometimes, but kind of swing to the other end of the pendulum and think about how you're maybe hogging a spot for someone who is waiting to get in.
you are.
Yeah.
And I just think it's like anything in life, right? The best answer is there's a balance. There's a balance
Hmm.
to this, and
Yes,
you need to make an informed decision. Like it's a
of
little
course.
Dear John, right? Like
Yeah.
you feel like you're breaking up with a med school or a law
Mhm.
school, and you've been through this journey together, you've been in
Yeah.
the trenches together. So, what do we think as admissions officials when someone emails us or calls us and says they're not coming?
Yeah. So I think it's important to, I'm just going to say that you and I, when we were on the other side of the table, I think that we um, were a little more in depth with our students. Like we got to know them a lot more than certain schools.
I still have some
Um,
students' grandma's numbers saved in my. Maybe
so,
I didn't know enough about boundaries. I don't know.
well, I just wanted to preface with that because we I just want to make everybody know that we maybe handle things a little bit differently than some other officials in schools. We really got to know students well. We loved hearing their stories. We loved hearing about their grandma. We had a student whose grandma came with them for a tour, and we loved that grandma.
No, we
So
did.
that was our side of things. So you may be looking at a school and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've maybe spoke to someone on a tour for 5 minutes and I didn't get that same interaction. So just kind of want to preface with that. Yes, it was sad when we, heard that student wasn't coming, but it's not like they're writing to the school that you chose and saying, "Hey, they were completely rude to us," and it's not like
We're
this.
not reporting you to the ABA or the
Right. It's
AMA.
not going to be a strike against your future bar membership or whatever they call it for meds, for your professional boards one day. And so I mean, like I said, it's not the end of the world. And for that school, while they may, oh man, we're really bummed
You
about
were
that.
their
They
top
may,
choice for
right.
that.
And yeah, and they may, you know, some schools may ask, is it a matter of scholarship? Just be open to that, but they're not going to keep dragging it along. And you just keep the communication open as well. Like, hey, it's not about this, that, or the other. It's just this was my top school and this is the choice that I'm making. So just like we always advise clients throughout the entire admissions process, transparency and honesty is the best policy. And so they're not, no one's, they may take it personal like we would for just a little bit, but it's not a strike against your record. It's not starting off on the wrong foot.
Right. And at the end of the day, any ethical admissions person is going to want
Right.
what's best for you. Like we're
Exactly.
all in this business. It's not because we're making $1 million. I'll tell you that right now. It's because we
Exactly.
care about students. And
Exactly.
when you call
Or
and tell
should.
us,
Right.
right, or email and tell us like, hey, like this school that's like in my home state, near my support system, with this
Hmm.
clinic, it's exactly what I want to do, just admitted me.
Yeah.
I'm not coming to your school. We wish you well.
Right.
So if you're a person who is kind of an empath and you have big feelings around this, feel your feelings, but
Hmm.
know that if you're dealing with good people, they're going to wish you the best.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think on this kind of in that same wheelhouse, I do remember there were students who kind of would try, I don't think any of our, obviously none of our clients would do this, but some of those students would see um, how much we cared about them and other applicants, and they would try and kind of play off that.
Mm,
And well, I really love your school, but I need this much more money. It was like it's almost like they were buying a used car.
yeah,
And I'm like, that once again, we weren't reporting anybody or, whatever, but that's not good etiquette either.
right,
To just kind of, you know, treat it as if they're haggling over a degree. I don't know if that sounds correct, but it's all about the tone and the etiquette and the honesty and transparency, and just come out and say, hey, in order to make this work, this amount of scholarship money, but don't kind of hide the ball, if that
right.
makes sense.
It makes total sense. And even though you decided to go to a different school and withdrawing your application, you're probably going to lose your seat deposit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is an investment in your future, so
Right.
you have to make
Mm-hmm.
those decisions.
Exactly.
But at the same time, you are starting your professional reputation right
Yes.
now. When you hit
Yes.
submit on those applications and, swore that everything you wrote was true, your
Mm-hmm.
professional reputation, whether you're going to med school or law school, it started
Mm-hmm.
right then.
Yes.
And if you are a person who, oh my gosh, Lysanne, I just got the best podcast idea. We
Mhm.
need to do the horror stories episode. Maybe it'll be
Gladly.
at Halloween because we have some horror stories of the
We
way people
do.
treated us
We do.
and behaved in this application process. So
Hmm.
please know that like admissions officers do talk when it comes to that element.
Yes,
It's like if
they
there's
do.
someone
It's a
who
very small world.
it's a very small world
And
and we
they're traveling together to fairs and yeah.
uh-huh.
Hmm.
We're all at annual meeting together,
Yeah.
sitting at tables, freezing cold, eating
Yeah.
almond chicken, and we share our war stories. And they're like, "Oh yeah, he ended up at my school." We're like, "Oh, condolences."
I agree. Yeah,
So you want to practice the way you're going to play, you
for
know?
sure.
So make sure that you are thinking of, you want to think about yourself, of course, and what's best for
Hmm.
you. And
Hmm.
the reason we are releasing this podcast episode right now, it's, March 20th, 2025, is
Yeah.
because decision deadlines are typically between April 1 and April 15. In
Yeah.
the mid-school world, sometimes it goes a little deeper into May. But every single day that you occupy a seat at a school that you do not intend to go to is another day that someone rides the wait list. Is
Mhm.
another day that that school doesn't have their class actually filled, right? And
Yeah,
so time is of the essence
for
here.
sure. For sure. And maybe we could talk a little bit about the external, well, we've already talked a lot about the etiquette of that, but just the external factors too.
Yeah.
Don't, well, you were saying earlier, there's, a student who's got committed to 5 schools, and like, well, I'm just waiting on them to give me more money, or I'm waiting to hear from career services. Let them know that,
Yeah.
because they may not know that you are waiting on a certain piece. Once again, I feel like speaking to myself back all those eons ago, it's like you're not bothering people. Let them know that this is an important factor to your decision. And so that they can go back and forth with you and tell you, oh, let me follow up again with career services, or let me tell them to contact you, or come back in and meet with this certain professor who's over this clinical opportunity.
That's right.
And just if the school would want to provide those things to you, just let them know.
Yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
absolutely right. So what are some things that you think med and law students should consider when they are looking at various schools? What are kind of your
Yeah.
top three, you think, for law? And then I can give my top three for med.
Um, okay, top three. There may be a little bit different than what you read online, but my first one would be environment.
Mhm.
Um, Meaning, once again, go on a tour, talk to a student, talk to someone who is not paid to be there. Don't just read on Reddit about the environment of the school, because at the end of
Because
the day,
you know who gets on Reddit? Really mad people.
but the people who've had a bad experience, and
Yes.
there you only hear one side of the story, and it's like, well, this professor is this, that, and the other. And there was something my dad told me years ago, because I would, I was in high school and I was like, I have English with this teacher. And he's like, don't listen to what anyone says. Go based on your experience. And
Mhm.
you let the first day with that teacher be what you think about that class. And that's always really stuck with me. And I think the same thing for a school that you're choosing. Go and see what it is like because, yeah, you may end up with an awesome clinical opportunity, but if you hate the 3 years, 3 years plus that you spend there,
Yeah.
what's it worth? I mean, your mental health is important.
Oh my
What we
gosh.
talked about making that professional career and that professional network, both in law and med, look at the type of people that you're going to be around and
Mhm.
see if they're going to be supportive to you. I mean, for me, I couldn't have survived a cutthroat law school. I mean, I could have, but it wouldn't have shaped me into to the professional that I am today. And dealing with other attorneys, like no one wants to deal with the one who they're always looking out for the knife in their back. No one wants that. So environment is really, really important. And not just looking at the school online, go see it for yourself and talk to
Yes.
people. My second would be value. I think I talked a lot with students about that who were like, well, this school I can go to absolutely free. Okay, but what if their bar passage rate is absolutely terrible? You still spent 3 years of your life, and I feel like I've talked about this a lot. That's still 3 years of your life, even though you didn't spend any money. So I would say value over price.
Over, right?
Right. We're
It's
not
an
looking for
investment
cheap.
either way.
It's investment in your future. It's an investment in your time. You want a return on not only the money that you spend, but the time that you spend there, including the people that you spend it with. So value is a really important one. And then third, I would say the professional opportunities. So talk with them about whether it's the match rate. I know that you can see that online, but just can you tell me about students like me with my background? Do you have an example of where that student match or something like that? Make it more personal to you. The school should be working to figure that out,
That's
to kind of provide you that information. If you're someone like me who was kind of niche, I wanted to go into child advocacy where there's always a need, but there's not necessarily a market.
that's right.
Talk with them about, okay, do you have connections in this world that could help me? Because those aren't the jobs that are being posted online. They're not necessarily the on-campus interviews. So if you have like a niche place that you're looking to be, that you're like, I want law or med to help me feel that passion and go into that work, kind of talk with them about what that could look like for you specifically.
Yeah.
So those would be my three,
I
I
think
think, when you're looking at a school, and they all involve sitting down with someone and having a conversation and asking honest questions.
that's right. I think you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. It's almost like you and I counseled students together for five
Yeah,
minutes.
really. And we
Um,
always welcomed questions because I'm like,
oh my gosh, yes.
please let me know your goals. Please let me know your objectives. Let me know your family situation. When we say, oh, you've got kids. Well, here's some nearby daycares. It's like because at the end of the day, it's it's a big choice for you and your loved ones and the people in your lives. We've got clients who have a certain situation going on in their personal life. Well, that matters too. You don't have to just put that, well, I don't need to tell them about that. I mean, obviously, as much as you're comfortable, but let
Sure.
them know that too, so that they can help counsel you through how that school could be good for everyone involved.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I will say, as a quick aside, like I had a client this week who had a law school interview um, at a very, very, very high ranked law school. And this was not his first law school interview. He's interviewed many places and he's a great interview. Um, and it was horrific. He was like, she was so cold,
Yeah.
gave me no feedback. And this was like
Yeah.
some their admissions office. And I told him very candidly, I
Mhm.
was like, I will just tell you, schools typically put their friendliest people in their admissions office, and the people who end up at that law school are the people who were drawn to that. So not only is the law school
Mhm.
likely going to be that way, um,
Absolutely.
that's the environment. That's the culture they're curating from jump.
Right.
And he went ahead and just withdrew his application because he was
Wow.
like, I
Yeah.
don't care that they're a top like single
Right.
digit law school. Like I
Of
don't want to go.
course.
And he's
No.
not the first person who I've heard say that about that school.
Mhm.
Schools get reputation.
Mhm. They absolutely
And
do.
and it just matters. When you and I were working at a law school, there was a competitor law school
Mhm.
who we would always I would always recommend, like, why don't you just go down there and visit? Why don't you go
Mhm.
visit and see how that goes? And never
Mhm.
failed. They'd be like, most of them. Well, that was horrible. They were rude, and the students were
Mm-hmm.
mean. Everything's
Right.
cutthroat. All right, well, come on down. Except for the students who went down there and they were like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. And we would
Yeah.
wish well because we didn't want them in our class.
Right. No, not at all. And there's a place for everyone. But if
A pot for every lid, Lisanne would always
that's,
say.
I do say that. I almost said it just now, and I didn't want to
I know
sound
you
like a
did.
country bumpkin, but here we are.
Listen,
So,
same here. If you don't like what we're saying, you can just turn it
yeah.
off.
So, but that's an important thing too. And like I said, it just involves going and talking to them. That is their job. And like you were saying, they're putting their best foot forward. It's like dating. Like if the first date is really awful, you probably don't want to go on a second date. You definitely don't want to get married. So it's the same, it's very similar. Like they should be putting their absolute best foot forward and trying to tell you to come to their school. And if you go to an interview, no one, you walk in student services, no one even welcomes you. You go to the missions committee and they act like, well, you're just a number. And that might not be the place for you.
Might not be.
And you wouldn't have known that because you were reading a brochure, looking online, and they're, of course, going to write their best things about what they have to offer. You've got to see it for yourself.
You have to. And for med clients or med school hopefuls, I
Mhm,
think it's important that you can do a lot of your work on your own. You can see their match rates, how the
mhm,
schools match to the specialties that you're interested in. You
mhm,
can look at their USMLE pass rates, all those different
mhm,
kind of things. But at the end of the day, it's important for you to go and visit. And that's really hard because
mhm,
nationwide, MD applications or MD interviews have moved virtual, which is good for a lot of reasons because
mhm.
it
If you're
removes some
looking at
barriers.
location, yeah.
Exactly. But it is hard. In the DO space, they're typically those interviews are in person. And so you just are able to have that time. A lot of med schools do offer admitted student stays.
Mhm,
But if you get admitted later in the cycle, you may have
mhm.
missed it. And so finding time to get to campus, even if it's not an official tour,
Yeah.
time to get there, talk to the people you see walking around and ask them
Mhm,
what their experience has been like. You can
yeah.
sort of tell the temperature of a med school or a law school
Mhm.
by just kind of casually observing, kind of the fly on the wall.
There's,
Go and sit in the student kind of main gathering place and
yeah.
just listen and hear, and not
Hmm.
in a creepy way, but just you
Right.
want to take the temperature and see what it's like. And that's another part
Yeah.
of calculus too, is do you visit on admitted students day or do you
Hmm.
make kind of an ad hoc visit on a normal like Wednesday?
Go on the Wednesday.
I
Sorry.
think so too. Right. No, I think so
Yeah.
too. That's how I advise clients because,
Hmm.
and that doesn't mean you don't go to admitted students day,
No, go to
especially
both.
a school that you think you're going to go to. It's a great time to meet your future classmates,
Yes.
all of that. But if it's one or the other, go on
Hmm.
a random Wednesday because it's going to be a better picture
Right.
of the school as you're going to be there for 3 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
So what are our takeaways? Let's see here. If you're on the wait list, um, be patient, chin
Hmm.
up. It's a rough
Yes.
cycle
Right.
and things are still happening.
For
If
sure.
you're in the med school space, we're getting tight. So if you are a med school applicant to this cycle and you have not gotten an interview and you have not gotten off the wait list, if you have had an interview, it is likely time to start prepping for the MCAT.
Yeah.
So I hate to be the one to tell you that, but it's time to start prepping for the MCAT again because I'm
Hmm.
guessing that that's probably why you're not getting interview invites
Yeah.
or it's time to get more shadowing experience.
For sure.
So if you're a law student and you're still riding the wait list, buckle up, right?
Hmm.
We're just getting started, don't you think, like?
Yes. I think so. I really do think so.
Yeah, I think steady. If you want to start prepping for the LSAT, who does? You could definitely
Yeah.
do that. The LSAT is your outlier low
Right.
thing in your application.
And ask the school what your outlier is.
Oh my
Ask
God.
them.
And then listen to what they tell you.
Right. And if they
Like
say it's the
I'll advise
LSAT, don't do another letter of rank. Do what they tell you.
they tell you
And I
to do.
know we've talked about that before, but I think that's is obviously something that's important to us. We don't want to gloss over or necessarily sugarcoat. I mean, sometimes you will have to reapply. You're not the only one. You're not the
Oh,
only one. It happens. And what you do from here matters. And it's okay, it's going to be just fine. I know it really stinks right now, But ask if you have a school that you are dying to get in and you are still on that wait list, have a conversation with them, ask what your outlier is, ask what you can do, and then do that. And it may just be keep waiting,
Right.
continue to write that letter of interest, ask if you can, come in, if you haven't done a tour yet in an interview, ask if you can do that.
That's right.
Just put yourself out there. I know that's difficult to do, especially if you feel you've been rejected by getting on the wait list.
That's right. And
But
it's not a
just,
rejection. It's
it's
not about
not a
you. They have
rejection.
metrics that they're having to hit. Schools are
Yep,
under a ton of pressure from
exactly.
alumni, from regents, from national rankings. And here's the thing. A lot of this, not to sound like a lawyer, it depends. So if you're on the wait list for law school right now,
Mhm.
it depends how flexible you are. If
Yeah,
they call you on August 10th and say, we need you here August 11th, can you be there and be ready to start at that
right.
school? Um,
Mhm.
because you and I have both at orientation peeled a name tag off a folder and smacked a new one on, written in Sharpie,
Yes,
called, had a student sitting in the parking lot because they were that eager to come. And here they came,
yes,
they started orientation,
yes.
and they're lawyers now, and they
Right,
made it, and
right.
it was
And no one knows.
a whirlwind.
Yeah, yeah. And nobody know. I mean,
Yeah. So a lot of this
yeah.
depends on how flexible you are in this law school space. I know it's been a horrific cycle.
Yeah.
If you applied November or later, you and you're not having success, your chances of being admitted if you apply in September or October of 2025 are going to look a lot different,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
absolutely.
So even just the timing of things
Right,
sometimes
right.
is really important.
Yeah. And I feel like that's another thing we just talk so much about is applying early, but it really is so important to do that. And so if it doesn't happen this year, let's have a conversation this summer and you're going to be ready to click submit and we'll go from there and it's going to be a different story.
Yeah. Well, if something came up for you while you were listening to this episode, if
Yeah.
you're thinking about med school, thinking about law school, if you're on the waitlist purgatory space, um,
Mhm.
go to gradmissions.org, book a free call. You'll talk with
Yes.
either Lisanne or me. We'll spend
Yep.
20 minutes and we can just help you make a personalized roadmap for your success.
Yes, for sure. Or if you're listening, you're like, I have no idea what any of this is. I'm totally overwhelmed. Book a call too, and we'll explain it, from step one. We're happy to do that too.
That's right. All right. Well,
So,
you all be safe out there.
mhm.
Chins up. You've got this.
Yep,
Make a
we
plan and
do.
control the things you can.
Yep. Bye, friends.